When young Lucy dialed 911, her voice trembled as she ordered a pizza, leaving the dispatcher puzzled. But as soon as the police arrived at her doorstep, their faces turned pale when they discovered the chilling truth hidden inside her seemingly ordinary home. What they found in Lucy's home would haunt them for years to come. When the 911 dispatcher received this call, she did not immediately understand what was going on. She was confused by this little girl, who sounded like she was only a few years old, asking for a pizza. But then, it clicked, and she immediately sent a police unit over to her house. The officers swiftly made their way inside the house, not entirely sure of what to expect. They half expected it to be a prank, but when they realized what had urged little Lucy to make that 911 call, they turned pale. "It looks like we're too late," one of them whispered. "No, we're not, but we have to take action immediately," Officer Daniel exclaimed. He knew that whatever had happened, they did not have much time left, and he wanted to do his job right. But why had Lucy made that call? Why did she ask for a pizza? And would she be all right? "You look beautiful," Chris said to his wife, Marcy, as he watched her walk down the stairs. Tonight was their first date night since Lucy was born, and they were both very excited to have an evening with just the two of them. Some tasty food and a bottle of wine. The last time was over 3 years ago. Both Chris and Marcy were very much looking forward to the evening. Adriana, their babysitter, had agreed to watch Lucy for the entire evening until they returned. The couple left the house feeling confident that their daughter was in good hands and looking forward to a romantic dinner. Of course, they had no idea that the night was going to end in disaster. After they left, Adriana and Lucy put on a movie, made their favorite snacks, and played some games. Lucy absolutely loved Adriana, and she did not mind being without her parents as long as this girl was by her side. It clicked between them from the first moment they met, and Adriana made her feel safe and happy. After they finished the movie, Adriana said that it was time for bed. Lucy was not tired yet, and she tried to convince Adriana to let her stay up for just a little more, but Adriana insisted. She managed to win over the little girl, and they went upstairs to get ready for bed. They were just brushing Lucy's teeth when the doorbell rang. Adriana said, "You finish brushing, just like Mommy and Daddy showed you. I'll go and see who it is, but I'll be right back." Lucy nodded, and she continued carefully brushing her teeth, making sure to do it exactly like her parents had taught her. By the time she finished, Adriana still had not come back upstairs. From that moment, everything went very quickly. It was only minutes later that the phone rang at the 911 call center, and dispatcher Sarah picked up. "911, what's your emergency?" she said, and she was surprised to hear a little girl's voice on the other end of the line. "I want a pizza, please," she whispered. At first, Sarah thought that someone was pulling a prank, but when the girl repeated herself again, she understood that this was a serious call. "What's your name?" she asked. "Lucy, can I have a pizza?" the girl responded, and Sarah still did not understand what was going on. "Is your mommy or daddy there, Lucy?" Sarah asked the little girl a few more questions, and then she finally understood what was going on. Lucy had asked for a pizza again, and then it clicked. She immediately contacted the police and ordered for a unit to be sent to the little girl's location, which she had quickly tracked down. "Please, you have to hurry," she added. Officer Daniel was on the unit that was sent to Lucy's house. He did not know exactly what to expect, but he realized that they had no time to lose. So he and his colleagues raced to the house with their sirens wailing, hoping that they would arrive in time. If they didn't, well, he didn't even want to think about that. When they got to the house, they saw that the lights were still on. They quickly got out of the car, and Daniel was the first one to arrive at the front door. He immediately saw that something was wrong. The door was open. It was slightly ajar, and it loudly creaked as Daniel pushed it open all the way. The officers sneaked inside, holding their guns in front of them. The house looked empty, but it was obvious that someone had been in here. They split up to search every room, and Daniel immediately went upstairs. He had no real explanation for it, but his gut feeling told him that was where he needed to go. Upstairs, all of the lights were off. He searched each and every room, and he also checked the closets and behind the beds, but there was nobody there. When he checked every room twice, he returned downstairs and asked, "Are you sure that this is the right address?" "Positive," his colleague replied. "It looks like we're too late." Outside, the night air was still. Officer Daniel, flashlight in hand, scanned the yard. His beam caught a glimpse of something in the bushes. As he approached, his heart raced. There, sprawled and unconscious, lay Adriana. Her peaceful face belied the danger she had faced. Immediately, Daniel called for medical assistance. The calm of the night was shattered. The reality of the situation was setting in. Adriana's eyes fluttered open, her gaze unfocused. The bright lights and concerned faces of paramedics swam into view. "What happened?" she murmured. Her mind was a jumble of images and sounds, none making sense. As the paramedics checked her vitals, her confusion deepened. She remembered being in the house, then a sudden, sharp fear, but the details eluded her. While Adriana was being attended to, another officer inspected the yard. The soft ground near the bushes bore signs of a scuffle. Footprints, a broken branch, and a torn piece of fabric. These subtle indicators pointed towards a violent encounter. The officer carefully documented each clue, knowing they were pieces of a disturbing puzzle that had yet to be fully revealed. As Adriana sat in the ambulance, fragments of memory began to resurface. "There was someone else in the house," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I heard a noise, went to check, then it's all a blur." Her eyes were wide with the effort of remembering. The officers listened intently, hoping for a lead, but her memories were fractured, offering more questions than answers. Back at the restaurant, Marcy's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" she answered. The voice on the other end, steady yet empathetic, belonged to Officer Daniel. "Mrs. Grayson, there's been an incident at your home. It's about Lucy." Marcy's heart plummeted. Her fork clattered to the plate as her world began to spin. The house, now a silent witness, echoed with the meticulous movements of the police. Every room was combed through, each surface dusted for fingerprints. The stillness was punctuated by the soft clicks of cameras and the rustle of evidence bags. Each officer moved with a purpose, knowing that the smallest detail could be the key to unlocking the mystery of Lucy's disappearance. Officer Daniel stepped outside, his gaze sweeping across the neighborhood. He and his team began knocking on doors, seeking any CCTV footage. Neighbors, alarmed and eager to help, provided their security videos. Each digital eye offered a new perspective, a chance to spot something amiss. The officers collected the footage with a sense of urgency, hoping for a glimpse of the kidnapper. In the precinct's forensic lab, experts hunched over screens, analyzing the evidence collected. Fingerprints were compared against databases, but no immediate matches were found. Each piece of evidence was a puzzle piece, waiting to fit into the larger picture. As they worked, a profile of the suspect began to emerge. Not yet complete, but a crucial step forward in the investigation. Back at the house, a discovery piqued the interest of the investigating team. a distinct footprint, different from the others found. It was larger, with a unique tread pattern. This could be the break they needed. Officers began cross-referencing it with shoe databases, narrowing down potential suspects. The footprint was a silent testament, pointing them in a new direction. Word of Lucy's disappearance spread like wildfire. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers started gathering, united in a common cause. Flyers with Lucy's picture were printed and distributed. People organized into search parties, scouring nearby areas. The community's heart and spirit were evident in their determined faces. They would not rest until Lucy was found and safely returned home. Chris and Marcy's car turned into their driveway, their laughter fading as they saw the flashing police lights. Stepping out, they were met by a scene of chaos. Their safe haven, once filled with warmth and laughter, was now a hub of police activity. They stood, frozen, as the reality of their daughter's disappearance began to sink in, shattering the illusion of their perfect evening. Adriana, her face pale and eyes red from crying, approached Chris and Marcy. Between sobs, she recounted the evening's events, the movie, the games, and the mysterious intruder. Guilt consumed her as she spoke. She had promised to protect Lucy. Chris and Marcy listened, their expressions a mix of shock and despair as they tried to comprehend the nightmare unfolding before them. The community's response was immediate and powerful. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers came together, driven by a shared mission to find Lucy. Flyers with her smiling face were printed and distributed across the town. Search parties formed, combing through parks, streets, and wooded areas. The collective effort was a testament to the strength and unity of the community in the face of adversity. The search for Lucy intensified as local businesses and volunteers joined the efforts. Shops displayed her flyers prominently in windows, and volunteers handed them out at busy intersections. Social media buzzed with posts and shares about Lucy. The entire town echoed with a sense of urgency and desperation, each person determined to play their part in bringing Lucy home. Despite the growing despair, a resilient hope flickered in the hearts of the community. Candlelight vigils were held, with people gathering to pray for Lucy's safe return. This shared hope became a beacon in the dark hours of uncertainty, uniting everyone in a singular purpose. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope has the power to bring people together and ignite a collective strength. The day had barely dawned when a nondescript envelope was found on the Graysons' doorstep. Inside, a ransom note, crudely written yet chillingly clear, demanded a substantial sum for Lucy's safe return. Chris's hands trembled as he read the words aloud to Marcy. Their worst fears had materialized into this stark reality. The note was not just a demand, it was a direct threat to their daughter's safety. Immediately, the police sprang into action. Detective Miller, leading the case, ordered a discreet surveillance setup around the Graysons' home. Every angle was covered, every possible approach monitored. They knew the kidnapper might be watching, so subtlety was key. This wasn't just a matter of preparing for the ransom exchange, it was a strategic play in the high-stakes game of cat and mouse they were now part of. Inside the house, under the guidance of Detective Miller, Chris and Marcy prepared the ransom. They counted the bills, each one a painful reminder of what was at stake. Marcy's hands were steady, but her eyes betrayed her fear. Chris tried to appear composed, but his furrowed brow spoke volumes. They were making a calculated risk, one they hoped would bring their daughter back to them. As the deadline loomed, the atmosphere in the Graysons' home became increasingly tense. Officers communicated in hushed tones, while Chris and Marcy watched the clock, each tick echoing like a drumbeat in their ears. The strategy was set, but so many unknowns remained. Time was their enemy now, and as the deadline drew nearer, the air grew heavy with the weight of the unknown. The moment of the ransom exchange was meticulously planned. In a secluded location, under the cover of dusk, Chris, accompanied by an undercover officer, waited with the money. But as the minutes ticked by, a sinking realization set in. The kidnapper, cunning and elusive, had other plans. The money sat untouched. The kidnapper was nowhere to be seen. It was a calculated move, leaving the police scrambling for their next step. The area designated for the ransom handover was a maze of shadows and silence. SWAT teams, clad in gear, positioned themselves strategically, blending into the environment. Their eyes scanned every movement, every potential hiding spot. This was a high-stakes operation demanding precision and patience. Up in the command center, Detective Miller coordinated the teams, his voice calm but tense, aware of the delicacy of the situation. As the handover time approached, a figure emerged from the darkness, a silhouette against the dim streetlight. The SWAT teams tensed, ready to act. But as quickly as the figure appeared, it vanished, like a shadow melting into the night. The kidnapper was crafty, moving with a stealth that made capture nearly impossible. It was a game of cat and mouse, and the mouse was proving elusive. In a fleeting moment, the ransom was taken. The bag, once heavy with the weight of hope, now empty. Yet, Lucy was still not there. The realization hit everyone like a physical blow. They were back to square one. The urgency of finding Lucy escalated. Time was slipping away, and with it, the chances of a safe return. The night air, once still, now seemed to carry a silent, urgent plea. Back at the Graysons' home, the air was thick with desperation and despair. Marcy's face, once full of hope, now mirrored the fear and helplessness they all felt. Chris tried to comfort her, but his own despair was palpable. The police officers, despite their training, couldn't hide their frustration. The failed exchange was a bitter pill to swallow, leaving a lingering question. What now? In the wake of the failed handover, the police regrouped. Detective Miller called for a meeting, his expression grim but determined. It was time to rethink their strategy. The kidnappers' cunning tactics called for a different approach. Ideas were exchanged, plans formulated. They had to be one step ahead, anticipate the kidnappers' next move. The mission was clear: find Lucy, but the path to her was more complex than ever. In the quiet of the forensic lab, a breakthrough emerged. A fingerprint, lifted from the ransom note, matched a profile in the criminal database. Detective Miller studied the match closely. This was the lead they desperately needed. Hope, dimmed by setbacks and frustrations, flickered anew. This fingerprint was more than just evidence. It was a beacon, guiding them closer to Lucy. With the identity of the suspect confirmed, the police sprang into action. Detective Miller issued orders, his voice firm and decisive. Teams mobilized, fanning out across the city. The chase was on, a race against the clock to catch the kidnapper. Each officer knew the stakes were high, and their determination was palpable. The pursuit wasn't just a matter of justice, it was a mission to save a life. As the investigation deepened, the suspect's profile became clearer. He was known to the authorities, his past marked by a trail of minor offenses. But this was different. Detective Miller pieced together the information, mapping out potential hideouts. Each bit of data, each record, brought them closer to the suspect. The net was closing in, and the suspect's options were dwindling. The urgency mounted with each passing hour. The search teams scanned streets, alleys, and abandoned buildings. Time was their greatest adversary now. Somewhere out there, Lucy waited, her fate hanging in the balance. The officers pushed themselves harder, their resolve unyielding. The race against time was not just a metaphor, it was a tangible, pressing reality. Detective Miller received a call, a sighting, a possible location. The net was tightening. Coordinates were relayed, and a SWAT team swiftly deployed. As they converged on the location, the tension was palpable. This could be it, the moment they had all worked tirelessly towards. The team moved in, each member acutely aware that every second mattered. The rescue of Lucy was within reach, and they were not going to let this opportunity slip away. Hidden away in a desolate area, surrounded by thick woods, the kidnappers' hideout was finally uncovered. An old, dilapidated cabin, seemingly forgotten by time, stood eerily silent. Detective Miller surveyed the scene, his eyes taking in every detail. This secluded lair, once a haven for the kidnapper, was about to become the focal point of the entire investigation. The moment of truth was near. In a nearby makeshift command center, Detective Miller and the SWAT team leader huddled over blueprints of the cabin. Every entry point, every potential risk was analyzed. A rescue operation was meticulously planned, balancing precision with urgency. This wasn't just another operation. It was a delicate dance of strategy and bravery, with Lucy's safety as the ultimate goal. As night fell, the SWAT team, clad in tactical gear, prepared to breach the kidnappers' stronghold. The air was thick with tension, each member aware of the stakes. They checked their equipment, their expressions a mix of focus and determination. This was it, the culmination of all their efforts. Hearts racing, they moved into position, ready to confront danger head-on. With a silent signal, the breach began. Doors were forcibly opened, rooms swiftly cleared. The operation was a symphony of precision and speed, each movement calculated. The team communicated through gestures, their training evident in every step. As they moved through the cabin, the tension was almost tangible. Every corner turned, every door opened, brought them closer to the endgame. In a small, dimly lit room, they found her. Lucy, though scared, was unharmed. The moment she was spotted, a wave of relief washed over the team. She looked up, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and hope. As an officer gently scooped her into his arms, the cabin echoed with the sounds of a rescue fulfilled. The nightmare was over. Lucy was safe. The moment Lucy saw her parents, a mixture of relief and joy spread across her face. Chris and Marcy rushed forward, enveloping her in a tearful embrace. It was a scene of pure, raw emotion, a family reunited after facing their darkest fear. They held each other tightly, as if to assure themselves that this was real. The nightmare was over, and their little girl was back in their arms. In the days following Lucy's return, the Grayson family began the delicate process of healing. They sought counseling, understanding the emotional and psychological impact of the ordeal. Nightmares and anxiety were common, but through therapy and support, they started to regain a sense of normalcy. It was a journey of small steps, with each day bringing them closer to healing the wounds left by the trauma. The community's role in Lucy's rescue was nothing short of remarkable. A celebration was held in the town square, honoring the volunteers, police, and everyone who had contributed. Speeches were made, stories shared, and gratitude expressed. It was a testament to the strength and unity of the community, a powerful reminder that even in the darkest times, people can come together to make a difference. In the aftermath of the event, the Graysons and their community took time to reflect on the importance of safety and vigilance. Neighborhood watch groups were formed and safety workshops were organized. Parents talked to their children about stranger danger and emergency protocols. It was a collective effort to ensure that such an event never happened again, with everyone playing a role in safeguarding their community. As life gradually returned to its rhythm, the Grayson family found a new normal. They cherished simple moments more, like family dinners and evening walks. Chris and Marcy became more involved in community activities, driven by a newfound appreciation for the support they had received. For Lucy, resilience shone through her smile, a sign that even the youngest hearts could overcome great challenges. The family had emerged stronger, united by love and a shared experience that had forever changed them. The day of the trial arrived, bringing with it a sense of finality. The kidnapper, now in custody, faced the full weight of justice. In the courtroom, emotions ran high as he was led in, handcuffed. Chris and Marcy sat, their expressions a mix of anger and relief. As the charges were read out, there was a palpable sense of righteousness. Justice was finally being served. As the trial unfolded, details of the kidnapper's identity and motives came to light. He was a man with a troubled past, his life a tapestry of wrong turns and missed opportunities. The courtroom listened in silence as the prosecution laid bare his history, painting a picture of a man driven to desperation. It was a revelation that offered some understanding, but no excuse for his actions. The connection between the kidnapper and Adriana was a focal point of the trial. Their past relationship, marked by turmoil and eventual estrangement, was scrutinized. Adriana, taking the stand, recounted their history with a mix of sorrow and disbelief. The courtroom heard how their paths had diverged, leading to this fateful intersection of lives. It was a story of lost love turned to bitterness, a key piece in understanding the sequence of events. The trial delved into the kidnapper's financial woes, painting a picture of a man cornered by circumstance. His debt, mounting bills, and the inability to find stable employment were highlighted. The prosecution argued that the abduction was a desperate act, driven by financial desperation. The ransom demand, a misguided solution to his problems, had led to a series of events that spiraled beyond his control. In the wake of the trial and the ordeal, the narrative shifted to the community's recovery and growth. The townspeople, once shaken, now worked together to rebuild stronger bonds. Safety initiatives were implemented, from neighborhood watches to safety education programs in schools. The community's resilience was evident in these actions, a collective commitment to ensuring the safety and well-being of every member, especially its youngest. The gavel struck, marking the beginning of the kidnapper's trial. The courtroom, filled with an air of solemnity, represented a turning point. For the Graysons, this was more than a legal proceeding. It was a journey towards closure. Witnesses took the stand, their testimonies weaving together the narrative of the crime. Each word spoken was a step closer to understanding and closure for the family and community alike. During the trial, a critical revelation emerged. The kidnapper was Adriana's ex-boyfriend. His motive was a twisted tapestry of revenge and misguided retribution. The court learned how his obsession with Adriana morphed into a vengeful plot against her. This revelation shed new light on the case, painting a picture of a man whose broken heart had led to broken laws and shattered lives. The narrative of the crime unfolded in the courtroom. Initially, the kidnapper planned only to rob the Graysons' home, seeking financial gain. However, the situation escalated rapidly when Lucy unexpectedly became part of the equation. The court heard how a simple burglary morphed into a high-stakes kidnapping, a crime born out of panic and opportunism. spiraling far beyond the kidnapper's original intent. Judgment Day arrived, bringing with it a sense of finality. The courtroom was heavy with anticipation as the judge prepared to deliver the verdict. For the Graysons, this moment was a culmination of their ordeal, a chance to see justice served. As the judge pronounced the sentence, there was a collective breath of relief. The kidnapper would face the consequences of his actions, a fact that offered a semblance of peace to all affected. In the aftermath of the trial, the Grayson family looked towards a new dawn. The trauma they had endured would always be part of their story, but it did not define them. They found strength in each other and in the support of their community. With each new day, they embraced life with a deeper appreciation, a family bonded not just by blood, but by the resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity.